Welcome once again. We're just so grateful to God that we're able to come towards, I guess, the end of this third season. This is episode 35, and God has blessed us to come before you another Saturday. So we're just excited once again. And we're going to still focus on marriage. We're focusing on marriage once again on this Saturday. And last week we talked about the rings.
That's right.
How important it is to wear your ring at all times. Whenever you leave the house, you should have your ring on.
Like that American Express, okay? Don't leave home without it.
That's it. That's it. So we enjoyed that episode. So now we're gonna move on another area as far as wedding. Instead of wedding rings, we're gonna talk about the wedding ceremony.
Right.
Now, is it worth increasing your debt?
Come on with it.
And then our subtopic is, should we go into debt to have an elaborate wedding ceremony? Should our priority be on keeping our vows? If we focus on keeping our vows instead of having that elaborate wedding ceremony, trying to keep up with the Joneses. Should we start out simple in the courthouse, or should we want to end up years later in bankruptcy court?
Oh my.
So that's what we're going to focus on today.
Ooh, before we get into this topic, y'all, this is going to be a little heavy. We want to give a special shout out to all of our fellow podcasters on BS3 Network.
Yes.
We are a family. We give kudos to everybody that's really creating so much content for all of our viewers to take advantage of. And we certainly want to give honor and credit to the visionary, Mr. Podfather himself, Ben Sudds-R-Us III, BS3, a product of the two of us, thanks to God. And he is doing this thing. He is running this ship, working tirelessly day in and day out to make sure that this content is available to all of our viewers. So spread the word. We are operating in a spirit of excellence, and we invite you to definitely connect with us on Roku TV.
Yes.
Our link will be displayed on the screen. If you have not checked us out, please download it on your various devices. And also, if you are interested, it's something about this pandemic and podcasting. He is available. Ben Sudds-R-Us III is available to help you get started in the podcasting arena. His information is also on the screen. And if you'd like to reach out to us at Sudds-R-Us Podcast, our information is on the screen. We would love to hear from you. But without further ado, we want to give you a little bit of detail about BS3 Network. We're pausing for a station identification.
BS3 Network, changing the way you watch TV.
right, let's get into it. Let's get into it. Now, is it worth it going into debt to have this big, elaborate celebration far as a wedding celebration? I mean, is the headache and the trauma of this piling up of bills worth? Because, you know, having an elaborate wedding is expensive, especially these days.
Yes, it is.
So what type of wedding is pleasing to the Lord? What does a traditional marriage look like when it comes to God's approval? Now, this is what Adam and Eve did. This is what God told Adam and Eve, the first married couple. This is in Genesis 1:27-28. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them.
Right.
And God blessed them. And God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. So their job that God gave Adam and Eve was to love, care for, and provide for one another.
Yes.
Take care of God's blessings that he had trusted them with, and also produce offspring. So he took out of Adam one rib and he created Eve. So they had a simple ceremony in the Garden of Eden. God didn't create Eve on the other side of the garden and have her march in across the garden with a beautiful flowery dress,
a little sachet,
and have her walk through the garden and escorted by beautiful horses and deers. No, God didn't do that. He had something simple for them. And that was the first married couple. Now we have to go back. We have to go back to jumping the broom in our celebration in this country, because we couldn't have an elaborate wedding ceremony while in slavery. And that's where we started in this country as slaves. So we're going to go back. We're going to give you some history now. I like to give you some history. We're going to go back to that wedding ceremony as a slave. Because, see, we didn't want the slave master. We didn't want him to know that we were married. So we had that traditional African term of jumping the broom and the custom of marriage. Now, neither one was an elaborate ceremony and a lot of fanfare. The original one with Adam and Eve, nor the original one as slaves here in America. So the significance of the broom to Black heritage or American history originates in West African country of Ghana. Now, during the transatlantic slave trade, most of Ghana in the 18th century was ruled by the Asante or the Ashanti Confederacy. Now, the Asante urban areas and roads were kept conspicuously clean according to the visiting British and Dutch traders, with the use of locally made brooms. Now, the wealthy, this is interesting. Now, the wealthy, gold-rich Asante people developed this large, influential Asante empire along Lake Volta and the Gulf of Ghana. Now, the empire was founded in 1670, and the Asante capital, Kumasi, was founded in 1680, located at the crossroads of the Trans-Saharan trade route, and the Gusami megacities, strategically located, contributed significantly to the growing wealth. So these same brooms were used by wives or servants to clean the courtyards of palaces or homes. And the broom in Asante and other Akan cultures also held spiritual value and symbolized sweeping away past wrongs or removing evil spirits. This is what a broom comes into play regarding marriage. Now, Akan culture or Akan culture has also been historically important in the New World, where Akan names are very common. For an example, among Jamaicans, South and North Americans, and others. Now, in Barbados, the descendants of the Akamu is St. John Coffey, the leader of the 1763 slave revolt and violent revolt against the Dutch people in Guyana and Akan. So brooms are waved over the heads of the marrying couple to ward off evil spirits.
Oh, wow.
And the couple will often, but not always, jump over the broom at the end of the ceremony. So jumping over the broom symbolizes the wife's commitment or willingness to clean the courtyard of the new home she had joined. Now, furthermore, it expresses her overall commitment to the house. Now, it also represents the determination of who ran the household. Whoever jumped the highest over the broom
Wow.
could be the decision maker of the household, which is usually the man or the male.
Right.
Now, jumping up the broom does add up to taking a leap of faith, as far as I'm concerned, because as the tallest or more athletic of the two of us, of course, I jumped the highest. But so men should also be the leader when it comes to having the faith in God to provide for their family, and also be the leader of faith when it comes to escorting or ushering or bringing their family to church and bringing their family to Christ. We should be the leaders.
Right.
We should take the head. We should be the example of how a man who loves his wife and loves his family loves God and worships God. So let me give you this scripture, Hebrews 11, 1 and 6. It says, now faith is a substance of things hoped for and evidence of things not seen.
Right.
But without faith, it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him.
Yeah.
So when we seek God, men of God, with faith, he will reward our marriage and he will reward our weddings. But the irony in all of this is that the practice of jumping the broom was largely discarded after the emancipation in America, which was consistent with the eventual fall of the Asante or Ashanti Confederacy in Ghana in 1897 and the coming of the British custom. So jumping the broom, it did survive in America, especially in the United States, among slaves brought from the Asante area. Now, this particular Akan practice of jumping the broom was picked up other African ethnic groups and Americans used to strengthen marriages during slavery among their communities. This also kept them connected, connected to their ancestors and connected to the African heritage that the British tried to destroy when they overtook that Asante territory. So jumping the broom was not a custom of slavery, but it was a part of African culture that survived American slavery, like voodoo religion and the Fawn and Unectic groups on the ring shout ceremony of the Bakongo and the Mudun ethnic groups. So with slavery over and superficial hints of racial and integration allowed, African Americans could now have European-style marriages, which led to accumulating a lot of debt because of the costs. So was it worth it to try to keep up with the European styles? But jumping the broom has nothing to do with whites. Once blacks could have weddings with rings and that was recognizable by anyone as symbols of marriage, the broom ceremony wasn't required. But during this time, jumping the broom fell out of practice from the stigma it carried, and some cases still carry today. But still, African Americans who wanted nothing to do with anything associated with that era discarded that practice of jumping the broom. But the practice survived and made a resurgence after the public of Alex Haley book Roots. Now, in the 21st century, many Africans and African American couples, included us, jumped the broom at the end of their wedding ceremony as a tribute to tradition.
Yes.
And when we jumped it, when we renewed our vows, and we felt that we wanted to save the broom, and as far as using the broom with historical meanings, where we were barred from a relative or one of our ancestors, because that was important to us. Yes. And even couples do that today. They jump the broom when they get married, often referred to, or at least recognizing the heritage. And also they may borrow it from one of their older relatives.
That's right.
So the phrase is synonymous with getting married. The same way Americans associate tying the knot with getting married, we like to say jumping the broom.
Jumping the broom.
Broom jumping is also practiced in non-Black groups and in different religions around the world. And some variations of the Wiccans and the Gypsies are among some of the groups who developed their own broom jumping tradition.
Yes, I can reflect on 20 years ago, because it was our 20th wedding renewal. And God did a thing, y'all, because I, just being diagnosed with RA, didn't think that I could jump.
Right.
But your girl wanted to have all of it, all of the tradition, the church wedding, because that's not what we had originally. And I wanted that. And so, I had to pray and ask God to, to anoint my body and give me the strength to jump over that broom. Now, of course, he's right. He jumped the highest, and he should have, because, that just wasn't happening for me. But it's just something that I will never, ever, ever forget. God just blessed me with the dream of my life, to be able to have that church wedding with all the frill. And I'll get into a little bit more of that later. But that jump in the broom was very special. It was very special. And we took time to find the broom and the one that we wanted, the one that matched. And I think I accentuated it with the green or the sage color that we had. But something I'll never, ever forget. What an experience.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So when we look at scripture, we talked about the ring. There was no scripturally based tradition or requirement in the Bible when it came to wearing your ring or exchanging rings. But let's look at scripture when it comes to the wedding ceremony.
Okay.
Now, the most famous wedding in the Bible is when Jesus saved the groom's family from being embarrassed by running out of wine, which indicated that the wedding ceremony is of some importance and also approved by God, because we know Jesus is God manifested in the flesh. Some people like to take it to the extreme. Well, Jesus turned water into wine, and we can drink wine and drink it abundantly. No, that's not what he was doing. What he was doing was preserving that tradition, that wedding tradition of the actual groom's family not being embarrassed. So I just want to read the scripture, make a comment about that particular event. Now, John 2, 1-5 and 7-9. It says, "On the third day, there was a marriage in Cana of Galilee. And the mother of Jesus was there. And both Jesus was called and his disciples to the marriage. And when they wanted wine, the mother of Jesus said unto him, They have no wine. Jesus said unto her, Woman, what have I to do with thee? My hour is not yet come. His mother said unto his servant, Whatsoever he saith unto you, do it.
Do it. That's it.
And Jesus said unto them, Fill the water pots with water. And they filled them up to the brim. And he said unto them, Draw out now, and bear unto the governor of the feast. And they bare it. And when the ruler of the feast had tasted the water that was made wine, and knew not whence it was, but the servants which drew the water, they knew. The governor of the feast called the bridegroom. The beginning of the miracle did Jesus in Cana of Galilee, and the manifestation, or manifested the forth his glory, and his disciples believed on him. So traditional weddings can be simple and expensive in a courtroom to start with, and then have the elaborate or inexpensive in the courtroom.
Right.
Or then have the elaborate and expensive wedding, like we did 20 or even 40 years anniversary. Whatever you can afford.
That's it.
But to avoid accumulating a lot of debt to start off your marriage, the stress of learning to live together with one another is hard enough without added pressure of paying additional bills on top of student loans and house payments and car payments and children's expenses. And we don't have the luxury of Jesus coming to our rescue when we end up in a predicament when it comes to the wedding ceremony.
That's a good point, though. Yeah, but this time that we're living in this social media craze, if you will, it's giving this look at all my fabulous living, but it's really not that way. If you really take a moment and think about it, it's really not the way it's pictured on IG and Twitter and Facebook or anywhere else that you go and look. TikTok, all of them. It's really not. They flash.
Right.
But it's a pass for me. It's a pass. It's like, okay, it looked fabulous, but you have to be careful not to try to pattern yourself after all of that.
That's right.
You have to be careful about that. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about this wedding budget that's supposedly, the roadmap to getting your wedding underway, and and to the fruition of it. For a wedding planner, it costs $1,700.
Wow.
Really? I was our wedding planner. We planned it together, I should say. I get into the detail and I consult him on the other things. He don't get into detail. But saved $1,700. Invitations, $530. Come on. If you know anything about a computer and graphics, you can do some nice stuff now. Canva, come on, somebody. Favors, $450. Come on now. Thank God we had somebody make ours, but Amazon got it going on. You can find some stuff. That's wedding dress, $1,000. Now I know you really want to look nice at your wedding, but you don't have to go all the way out. And one good investment, if I may say, is to preserve it and to allow someone else to be blessed and to use it, your granddaughter or somebody else. Hair and makeup, $245. Wow. Okay, I guess we were blessed. I had someone come and do my makeup for free. What a blessing. $245. Photographer, $2,500. Wow. Now we had someone again to bless us. God, we were really blessed. And did a fabulous job. Not that we did not compensate him. We did, but it wasn't $2,500. I can tell you that. Videographer, $1,900. We did have a church member to bless us with that. A florist, $2,300. No, that's too much. Wedding cake, $500. I don't remember what we paid, but that cake was fabulous, though. We might have put out something for that. Rehearsal dinner, we had soul food, $2,300. No, we didn't have soul food. We went to Macaroni Grill. That's right. But $2,300. We paid for our guests. We paid for the whole meal. I don't remember what it was. Reception venue. Now, this is in today's times. $10,000. Wow. And do you know how early in advance you got to do that? Otherwise, you're going to pay even more.
That's it.
Reception DJ, $1,400. Wow. Catering, $75 per person. What? Live band, $4,300. Well, we won't have no live band. Sorry. Transportation, $900. So that's limos and whatever you might think you need, the getaway car, I guess. Now, I didn't put that into a grand total, but that is a lot of money. Listen, in today's times, you got to look for ways to reduce that budget. Because the wedding is on that day, but the marriage starts the next day. That's it. And you don't want any oops. And if possible, just as a a precursor to your wedding. Set your date at least a year and a half out. And then you can decide on a realistic budget between you and your fiance. And then make the financial adjustments to match your budget. And then buy your own stuff. You know, you can set aside something once a month that you want to buy to enhance your wedding. And then hire a decorator, or perhaps the planner may have a team that can do that. But like I say, you know what you want, and you're dictating to a planner. If you already have your plan, you are the planner. Lay out your plan and make it work. Also, hearing, you know, that budget, some decide to go to the courthouse, which is what we did, versus having an extravagant wedding, and then use the money that you saved, keyword saved,
There you go.
and then have a moderate reception and then a nice honeymoon. That's another route that you can take. And when you think of how much that ideal wedding costs, and consider also the financial stress and the strain before the wedding.
That's right.
And after the wedding, because you gotta fit that into your budget, you know.
That's it.
Then that's a number one stressor and pressure in your marriage. I hear people saying all the time the divorce is based on a financial issue, and you can't come to terms with it, which is really sad, because that's not a reason to get a divorce. But so if you can't avoid that stress and that pressure within the onset of your marriage, why not go into the marriage with a nest egg? You know, why forget all that stress? You know, like I said, if you want to go to the courthouse or do a little moderate wedding and then go forth with your reception and your honeymoon, and have that nest egg for a rainy day. You never know what happens in your onset of a marriage.
That's it.
And that eliminates, believe me, that stress and that strain.
A lot of stress. That's
and then our courthouse wedding, I just want to share with you. And it was on a Thursday. Of course, we got married in the week. I say that to say that most weddings are on a Saturday, even a Sunday. Who gets married during the week? We did. June 24th, 1982. And we were ready to become one. I mean, we had dated 7 years and was now 5 months pregnant. And that's not why we got married. We were ready to be one. And I heard of a couple, which was interesting. They were like, forget it. You know, we just want to be together. They went to the courthouse. They had their rehearsal dinner at Olive Garden. She brought her dress from Dillard's. They did a quick reception somewhere local. It was very simple. Very simple. Their main thing was that they were in love and they wanted to be married. So if you're planning, you know, if you've already had your initial wedding, you know, save for the renewal. And it doesn't have to be a traditional renewal either. I'm non-traditional, if you will. We did on the 20th. Most of it's like 5, 10, you know, 20, 25, no, 25, not 25, even 20, 25 and then 50. So we did a 20th rather than a 25th renewal. And this is when we had our full-blown church wedding. All of the frills and the thrills. It was an all-family wedding party. In fact, we had 3 generations. I think we did 3 generations. Candlelight ceremony. I'd never witnessed that. That's what I wanted. Went out and bought all of the candles that I wanted. Their lights were dim, and it was just absolutely fabulous. We wanted 2 limos because we wanted all of our family to ride in the limo. We got a Hummer that had everybody in the wedding party in it. I mean, they were just having themselves a ball. You know, in the ceiling were mirrors, and we were in the classic limo, just the 2 of us. But that was a no-debt wedding. And no debt honeymoon to Maui. When we thought about it, it was like, we don't want to go back to California. That was just fabulous. And then for our 40th year anniversary, again, non-traditional, which was really a wonderful reflection of our love. We had just come home from being caretakers to Mother Hall. It was a month long in Hickory, North Carolina. So we were ready for a celebration. We really were. But we started, you know, in March or April planning this thing. And it was via Zoom because
Yeah.
we were still
the
in the height of
pandemic.
COVID
Yeah.
during this pandemic. So
Yeah.
we were not trying to infect anyone. And
Right.
to top it off, our daughter was pregnant. We knew we wanted to be around our grandchild.
Right.
So we had about 25, 30 people in attendance on the Zoom, and we were elegantly dressed, baby. We was we were clothed. Okay. Not that if you know us, the Sudds-R-Us, we are all about the dress.
Right, right. And let me just say that
Oh,
what we had on, we talk about tradition and reflecting as far as our children. Well, in our 20th, our children was a part of our wedding ceremony. Like my wife said, the family, of course, but my son was my best man, and our daughters was bridesmaid as well as a ring girl, flower girl, right, flower girl. But in our renewal, our 40th, we actually wore the same suit and dress that we wore in our daughter's wedding.
That's true.
So just that connection. I just wanted to bring that connection. So we was fabulous as well.
Okay, and save some money, y'all. We weren't thinking about going to buy nothing.
Right.
That's it.
Fabulous, as well as we used the same outfits that we wore in our daughter's wedding. So we reflected on their marriage during our renewal.
Yeah, so he forgot to remember reflect that our son was at the first wedding.
Right, first wedding.
That's right. I was 5 months pregnant with our son, and of course, during the 40th, all of our children were there. And the two that were present, the girls, they just lavished love on us and served us, and we didn't have to do much of anything. Just spend a little money for some crab.
And BS3 actually emceed.
He did. He emceed, and he emceed the 20th.
Right.
So we had just a spread, if you will, of hors d'oeuvres and a sweet bar because the grandkids were here, which we didn't have on the 20th, nor the original, of course. And we had crab and oysters. We had to get ready for that night, y'all. And we had the bubbly and the cake. It was just sweet. And again, nothing elaborate. It's all about the meaning. I'm all about display as well, but it's also about the love and the meaning behind the celebration, and not about a lot of money being spent. Like it was suggested, go to a restaurant and do all of this, and it's like, for what? When I could do, what I do at home. I want to be in the comfort of my home. So, like I said, those were, very non-traditional, and that was on purpose. Our 20th, of course, we went through all of the thrills and the thrills of it all, but if you're married or you're warming up to get married, learn to celebrate your love. I don't care if it's by the minute, by the hour, by the day, by the weeks, by the month, whatever it is. It does not have to be traditional. Like you can't celebrate unless it's your 25th. Marriage is a day-to-day celebration.
That's it.
And so be intentional about that celebration, no matter what it is, and honoring your vows day in and day out. We talked last week about the rings. That's a way of honoring and celebrating your love for your husband and for your wife, cherishing your husband and your wife day in and day out. And whatever that takes, you come up with whatever that means for your marriage and make it work.
That's it.
We text each other throughout the day. We just do whatever it takes. In today's time, with this digital time that we're living in, there's really, little error in that space of time that you can celebrate your marriage. So whatever it takes, we encourage you to do that. Did you have anything else?
No.
Okay. As usual, we thank you for tuning in. We did not mention earlier, but this is a pre-recorded show.
Yes.
And we will try to be engaged on this day that it's airing so that we can engage in your comments. We thank you all for your support as always. But work your marriage, as we always say. Don't let it work you.
That's it.
You came together to make it last forever. So make it last.
Make it last. Don't be pressured.
That's it.
Into having this elaborate wedding. I mentioned jumping a broom that originated in Africa and Ghana. Well, you can see on YouTube and social media, they have some elaborate weddings in Africa now.
They do.
So don't be pressured. Do whatever in your budget.
That's it.
Focus on your marriage vows and handling the love of your life instead of trying to increase additional debt in your life. So that should be our focus.
That's right. Because when you think about it, that's a new and a journey that you're embarking on. So you don't need all of the extra pressure.
Right.
You're getting to really know each other and live with one another and you know, have fun as a married couple versus, you know, stressing over bills.
That's it.
We're not doing that. So today's closing scriptures, there are two of them. The first one comes from Romans chapter 12, verse 10, and I'll be reading from the New Living Translation. Love each other with genuine affection.
Yes.
And take delight in honoring each other. And then the second scripture is Colossians chapter 3, verse 14. Above all, clothe yourselves with love, which binds us all together in perfect harmony. In perfect harmony. That's what a marriage is all about. So continue to enjoy your weekend. We love you. We appreciate you. And thank you so much for your support. God bless you. God bless you.
Thank you.